All right, welcome into Big Hitters Only, rapid reaction, instant reaction show. UNC just defeated NC State 63-61 in another thriller. It is Saturday, January 11th at 6:07. We have Mike Hardison making one of his first appearances for basketball. I haven't heard from Mike in a while on the podcast. And Spenser Dalton, former UNC walk-on. What a game. Great game by Ian Jackson to kind of carry UNC, and then a huge block by Jalen Washington to seal it at the end. Jalen Washington finishes with a double-double of 11 points, 12 rebounds, and then 3 blocks. Elliot Cadeau had 9 assists. Ian Jackson, 21 points, 8 for 15 from the field, 5 for 8 from 3. Ian Jackson was massive in the second half offensively. Mike, let's go to you, man. What a game, what a win. The Tar Heels moved to 11-6 overall. And look, 4-1 in the ACC, kind of stacking those easy wins here. Not easy, but like the teams they should beat here to start off January.
Yeah, I thought not a great game, but a great finish and some great individual performances, right? I think most of us look at the majority of the first half as just incredibly sloppy, and then you watch Carolina fumble away a 7 to 9 point lead in the second half, and did it a couple times, I think. But I think what is nice moving forward and what I'm really hoping to see is you saw Jalen Washington have the game that we've been like begging for a UNC big man to have. And especially how that finished with him getting the game-winning dunk and the game-winning block in the last 30 seconds or so. I'm really hoping he can take a lot of confidence away from that. We saw Elliot Cadeau with a pretty solid game, 9 assists today, which I'm hopeful for can kind of right that ship. He's been a kind of inconsistent this season, and I think if he can just see that kind of production consistently, he can have kind of progress the way we thought he would at the beginning of the season. But would love to hear Spencer's thoughts on this. I really, really love the ending. Love the Wolfpack down. So
and let me comment quickly on Washington. I thought he started off kind of weak, like giving up tons of rebounds early, like in that first 4 minutes of the game. I wrote that down, just like kind of getting dominated on the boards. I think UNC gave up a couple offensive rebounds in back-to-back possessions. But yeah, he really did turn around, and he's making the plays, just like the catch and dunks. That last play, one of the last plays off the Elliot Cadeau assist, the weird kind of throw was a great assist, great catch. He corralled the ball and dunked it or laid it in, and then the block was huge. So his stat line is impressive, and he's making the baskets he needed to make late. Spencer, your initial thoughts, your takeaways early here?
Another incredible game from Ian Jackson. This kid is incredible. He is so good. He hits so many clutch shots today. He's really getting there on the defensive end as well, which, first month to 6 weeks of the season, lacking a little bit for sure, but he's rounded out his game defensively and then offensively over the last 5-6 games now. I think 5 of the last 6 he's got 20 or more points, something like that. Yeah. Truly incredible. And Mike, a resounding agreement as well on Washington. That is the type of game you have to have from a big man, and that's maybe the best game he's played his entire career. Yeah. Certainly the best one this season. I mean, a huge block, a huge dunk to go ahead. He was just in the mix the entire second half. So I wasn't pleased with us giving up an 8-point lead with 5 minutes to go. But at the end of the day, really ugly game, and we found a way to win. So you gotta be happy about that.
Yeah, I mean, super back and forth, sloppy to start. Both teams under 30 points in the second half. I think it was 26-20 at half. Turnovers, missed shots. I think UNC made 2 threes in the first half. NC State made 1. I don't know if that's credit to bad offense or good defense. But yeah, I mean, Ian Jackson, let's talk about him for a little bit. I mean, he's becoming a much better. He didn't start off a great shooter this season, but he's becoming a clutch shooter. All right, you expect those shots to go in. They're clutch. He's so quick with the ball. He can get past his defenders. He had a couple of those plays where he just took the defender down, and then he's pretty acrobatic. He doesn't make them all at the rim, but he's pretty acrobatic and has the length and the angles to make those. And you got some dunks. And they got out in transition. Didn't mention that at the top. I thought UNC scored So many more easy fast break points. Stat broadcast has them down as 16. It felt like they were getting off on 3-on-2s, 2s-on-1s, and really scoring a lot of easy points in transition. State only had 10 fast break points, and UNC had 16. And many of those were RJ and Cadeau to Ian Jackson or to Drake Powell. Ian Jackson's he is putting it all together here in the second half of the season as ACC play starts. I think it is 4 of the last 5 or either 5 of the last 6. He scored over 20 points. I think he had a run there of 23. Anything standing out differently from him, Spencer, with what he's doing? Is it just confidence? Is it just kind of more comfortable?
So he scored in a variety of ways today, which again, I'm really high on that. Like, the hardest thing to do defensively is stop a guy who has all of the tools. He can shoot the spot up 3, and he did that really well tonight. The first play of the second half was Cadeau driving into the lane and skipping it to the opposite corner and him burying a 3. There was a huge play with a couple of minutes left. And same thing, Cadeau driving into the lane, skip pass to a sideline corner-ish 3 to Jackson. So he hits the spot up 3s, which I love. One of the things that hurt us a couple of years ago, so last year, like, Cormac Ryan was a really good spot up 3-point shooter, catch and shoot from the stationary position. 2 years ago, Carolina didn't have anybody that could shoot the spot up 3. And up until about 2 weeks ago, it was kind of looking like Carolina still didn't have another guy who could shoot the spot up 3. And Ian Jackson has stepped in to that role. So he's hitting stationary spot up 3s. He's also, we talked about this before, he's very athletic and, has good moves with the ball, good ball handling, crossovers and jabs and everything. So he's able to get into the lane. He's able to get up in the air and find little windows to lay it soft off the glass. And, he's fast too, up and down the court. So he's able to, see that a turnover or a long rebound has taken place and then just like really get up the court super quickly and get, Cadeau is so good at those kick ahead passes. So, Jackson is able to get up to the rim really easily on these like fast breaks. And Ross, you mentioned it there. Fast break, if it weren't for like Jalen Washington hitting a dunk and getting a game-winning block, I'd say probably the biggest difference maker from a team perspective tonight for Carolina was those fast break points, forcing the turnovers, scoring off of them, and just like capitalizing in difficult positions on the break.
Mike, is Ian Jackson UNC's best player right now?
Yes.
Or how about best player on the team?
Yes.
Yes.
It's emphatic yes.
Yeah.
Look, for whatever reason, we've seen a regression for RJ, right? And I thought initially, when we kicked off the season, that might be because just different personnel, different personalities, maybe slow to kind of adjust to that. I think we're actually seeing like a legitimate regression here, and I think we're probably past the point of thinking that this is just maybe a minor step back and he'll figure it out. I do hope he'll figure it out. I think in order for him to get back up to the level that we have become accustomed to for him, it's going to happen when teams take notice of Ian Jackson. We've seen like the last 5 or 6 games, this has become a trend where Ian is a fearless shooter. He's the most dangerous weapon on the court. And what I'm hopeful for is as we progress in ACC play and teams continue to scout us and what we've done recently, that takes a little bit more pressure off of RJ Davis and maybe gets him a couple more open looks and gets that confidence going. But I think the thing about Ian Jackson, we've hit most of it, but he's fearless. He looks like he's having fun out there, which is for a freshman in an environment like NC State where they're not kind to us, to say the least. It's impressive. And then you talk about how fast he gets up the court. There are a couple times today where I was noticing how fast he got back on defense. And I think that, for a freshman in particular, is a huge reason why he's getting the level of trust from the coaching staff as he has. So I'm excited to see him continue to develop. It's his only year here at Chapel Hill, let's be honest. After the last couple of games, it's for sure he's leaving. So I hope he continues to progress. I hope he kind of unlocks maybe RJ Davis by taking some pressure off of him. And I'm excited to see him kind of continue to develop. So
yeah, I was talking to a buddy during the SMU game kind of about Ian Jackson, and I'm interested to see what he becomes as a pro. I see a lot of similarities to Kobe White. I think Kobe White was better to start off his UNC career, and he was more of a point guard. so fast transition. They both kind of have similar ways they shoot the ball from three. I wonder if Ian Jackson has a higher floor as a scorer, maybe. I don't know. Kobe White was unbelievable. And Ian Jackson's more of a two.
I think Kobe White was a better passer.
For sure.
In general.
And Kobe was a one. He was a pure point guard, started as a freshman's point guard. Ian Jackson more of a two, but probably maybe Ian might be a point guard in the pros. It'll be interesting to see how they do that. But yeah, I see a lot of those similar games. Ian Jackson maybe just a little bit more of a electrifying guy with the ball. I was laughing coming down here. I was going to start the podcast this way, but I was trying to explain goaltending to my girlfriend on that last play. Like, did y'all think it was goaltending at all? I think the State fans and Kevin Keats were thought it was goaltending. I don't know. Did y'all see that at all? Nah, pretty high up there.
I saw a low angle replay, and from that, from a cameraman who was probably on the floor right next to the base of the goal, and it really looked like that ball was still traveling upwards from that angle. Again, like, you could probably have a State fan just saying we're biased, so it's like confirmation bias, but I really do think that ball was still on the way up when he got it. It looked like goaltending just because I think the ball traveled a long way horizontally speaking. Like, he shot that ball from maybe 10 feet, 8 or 10 feet. So it was a longer shot than you would normally see from that position, I think. So that's maybe why it kind of looked like goaltending. But again,
it didn't look like that.
The ball was on the way up.
It didn't look like that to me when I initially saw it. I didn't think that. And then I think that's what Kevin Keats and some of the fans were saying as well. Did y'all see? Go ahead, Mike.
One note on that. I don't think you can call that call as a ref when it's that close. No. You know what I mean? Like, I think you have to swallow your whistle there. And I kind of fault Keats and State for everyone just stopping what they're doing. Everyone's just kind of confused. Jalen Washington got the rebound and no one did anything. I think there's still 2 or 3 seconds on the clock. It wasn't like an end of the game type scenario. Mm-hmm. So, you can be angry all you want about the missed call. You foul immediately, and then the refs sort it out if you're convinced that it was goaltending. So,
did y'all see Jalen Washington do the Wolfpack down hand signal?
Elliot Cadeau too.
Elliot Cadeau too. That's what the camera caught. It's weird. I mean, it's funny, but I don't really like us doing I just don't even. I don't mind the fact it's not classy. I just I don't want us to stoop down to the level of even that hand signal is so stupid.
I know you don't see Carolina players doing stuff like that a whole lot, like talking to opposing teams' benches, and that's, again, you just don't see it a lot.
I think was it Kenny Meeks would wave to State fans. I think Theo Pinson probably did that. I think when you're over there at the Lenovo Center or PNC, I think there's always a little bit of that because you're getting chirped at the whole game by the fans. So there is a little pent up.
They chirp there, man. Those fans love to talk.
Yeah, it's nasty.
If Jalen Washington gets going off of it, I don't care, man. If that's what gets Jalen Washington inspired to play like he did every game, let's see more of it. I just need him to keep up that 11-11 type game repeatedly.
Like the fire, man. Yeah, for sure.
All right, cool. And guys, make sure to rate, review, subscribe, follow, on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. If you're on YouTube, you're seeing quite the mixture of outfits. We have a rowback vest and a fall flannel by Mike. And what golf, what country club is this polo, Spencer? Is it Biltmore Forest?
Biltmore Forest.
Yeah, so a good array of outfits club here. Love it. And appreciate Connor for producing the show and for Garrett on the graphics here. All right, where do you want to take this? Let me pull up my notes. I want Drake Powell to be more. How about this? I want Drake Powell to be more aggressive, but let's talk about how Seth Trimble is kind of with Ian Jackson's emergence and Seth Trimble now in his second game coming off the bench. Ian Jackson starting. Seth Trimble he feels like the fourth option when he's on the court. He had 4 points. I don't like to see it, but you have to the shots have to go somewhere, and they're going to go to RJ, who had 13 shots today, and Ian Jackson had 15. Seth only had 6 shots, made 2. He was kind of the star of the first third of the season, got injured, missed a couple games, and is now almost like an afterthought in his last 2 games. Any takes on that? I want to keep him in the fold here because he can be such a good rebounder and defender, but it just seems like Ian Jackson's emergence has really affected what he can do.
I have a couple of thoughts. I think from a starting lineup perspective, you cannot take Ian Jackson out of the starting lineup. You know, there's a thing in sports, I'm sure y'all know it well, like you can't lose your starting position to injury. Yeah, it's a much bigger thing in football, I feel like, but certainly is a thing in basketball as well. And you know, you would like to stand by a guy, especially a guy who's been there for a few years in Seth Trimble and has played some really good minutes this year prior to his injury. But unfortunately for him, I think this is the type of thing where Hubert has to have a little bit of a difficult conversation at some point potentially and say, like, Jackson is just too good for us. You know, you'll still get your minutes, Seth, but right off the bat, having that extra scoring option in addition to RJ Davis and the defensive attention that Ian Jackson is going to take from teams and the ability that he has to, I think, I don't want to attribute it all directly to him, but since he's been in the starting lineup, we haven't had a slow start. Think about that.
Yeah.
Every game we lost this season was because we got off to a terrible, terrible slow start. And Ian Jackson being in there, kind of finding his footing in a general sense, and then certainly like really getting into a groove over the last 6 games in the starting lineup, you can't take him out. You simply can't.
Yeah. I think now there's no way he's going to not start Ian Jackson. I kind of thought he was going to start Seth and bring Ian Jackson off the bench, but now he's just been too good. Mike, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world to have Seth come off the bench and be the kind of defensive powerhouse, right? Like, get back to the basics of what makes Seth a great player. It was never going to be the scoring ability. We saw flashes of it early in the season. And I think that had a lot of people excited. But I think at its core, Seth's strength comes from his defense. And so I would love to kind of start the game with, you know, Elliott, RJ, and Ian, and then whoever the hot hand isn't, you know, plug Seth in, you know, the under 16 or the first time out there. Yeah. I think that he can provide a lot, and I also think that kind of eases him back into the swing of things. This might be a case of just throwing him back too quickly after a concussion, and maybe that's where some of the rust is coming from. I mean, he hadn't been doing a ton before the injury, but I'd still like to see, like, we know the ability's there. And so I think that there is something to be said about let him come off the bench, let him kind of be the defensive stopper that we need him to be. And, you know, I hope that's okay with the, you know, the personality management piece, because I do know that that's a portion of this. So,
yeah.
Sure.
Some other notes. Jalen Withers only played 4 minutes, and I really thought that Hubert Davis leaned on Van Allen Lubin and Jalen Washington. But you look at the box score, Van Allen Lubin only played 13. I thought he had a pretty good impact. 9 rebounds in 13 minutes. A little bit stronger presence down there. He came in early after Jalen Washington gave up some offensive rebounds. Washington had 27 points, but, you know, 11 points, 12 rebounds, the 3 blocks. And then I want to ask y'all, who do you think had the best plus-minus on the team?
Elliott?
Nope. Spencer, guess? It's bad radio.
Yeah.
It was Drake Powell with 8. So Drake Powell by far the biggest plus-minus. Next up was Seth Trimble with 3 and Elliott Cadeau with 3. So kind of shows you the impact there.
Powell had a quietly good game tonight. He is a good rebounder, I think, you know, due to his like length and athleticism. There were a handful of rebounds. Gosh, tonight, I feel like guys like used too much lotion before the game or something like that, man. We just couldn't, like, I feel like we're playing tennis out there, man. Everybody, dude. There were so many just like long rebounds and like no one's just going with 2 hands to grab the ball. We're just like batting it around with 1 hand. State was doing the same thing too. Everybody's just like using 1 arm to go up and try to grab the ball. And there were a number of times where I feel like Drake just kind of ended up being that guy who finally got 2 hands on the ball. So I think that was good. And interesting little like just thing to note and see the development of, like, him catching the ball around the free throw line, like in the middle, you know, off a cut, and he did some good work in the middle of the zone against Notre Dame as well. So that's just kind of a point of interest. I think that could be something to you know, to think about as an offensive option for for Carolina moving forward is trying to get him in there and like sort of on a quasi post up type of thing, because again, he's long, and if he's got a smaller guy on him, like he can make something happen.
Yeah.
Zero Cade Tyson today, right? No Cade Tyson minutes at all.
Back-to-back games.
Yeah.
Back-to-back games now. So essentially, that's a pretty good number there. He might be out of the rotation. We'll see. We didn't do podcasts after SMU game, but that was just one that it was good to see kind of the ball go in from a lot of different angles, a lot of different players, and get an easy win in the Smith Center. Let's look ahead a little bit. UNC has Cal on Wednesday at 7 p.m. in the Smith Center, and then Stanford on Saturday on the CW network in the Smith Center. So back-to-back games against Bay Area new ACC opponents. Both those teams, have a couple good players and been making some noise here. So it'll be interesting to see if they can continue.
Cannot lose them.
Yeah,
Right.
winnable games, and
Right.
it would be good for NCAA chances to keep stacking wins until they go against some of the better teams in the ACC, like Pitt, Duke. I think Clemson's doing really well. I haven't watched a lot of these teams yet, but I mean Duke with Cooper Flagg, 42 today, unbelievable.
Good, man.
All right,
Stanford-
what'd you
Real
say?
quick, Stanford's 95 and Ken Palm, Cal's 123. So those aren't just like good games to continue stacking wins, which we need in ACC play. You take a loss against them, that's going to be a bad loss. Now, I mean, we're kind of in that part of the ACC schedule where it's dangerous territory to kind of have a drop one, just kind of an oopsie game, so to speak. So
Yeah, we can't have any of those with our lack of like actual quality wins. Like, can't have any bad losses, because just one bad loss, to your point, Mike, is going to be looked upon very negatively by an NCAA tournament committee.
Yep.
Stanford with wins over Virginia Tech and Virginia today. Let's see what Cal did. Cal's playing right now, I think, as well.
They're playing right now.
Yeah.
Virginia's
all right, cool. So what can this win do for UNC? I mean, I think winning on the road now against Notre Dame, right? Yeah, and then today against State are huge. AC wins, you always take them on the road. Anything else that stood out? I think the good points about Jalen Washington's confidence is one note. Anything else that you like that you think you can build on that can be duplicated?
First half defense was really good. Again, now I don't know how much of that's just attested, like can be attributed to State taking bad shots and not making them, because they had some wide open ones. So first half defense was good. Want to see if that's kind of a continued trend. Last year we kicked it into high gear around conference time in our defense, so maybe that's something we can hang our hat on a little bit more than we did in non-conference play. And then any games you get like this where you see continued development of freshmen, I think we've highlighted how well Ian played and Drake having a solid game, getting them the experience on the road and seeing them kind of continue to contribute positively, like, is a big step forward. So, without the freshmen, we lose this game, just straight up. So, want to continue to see their progress. And I think this is a really good step for them.
So looking way ahead to like tournament selection time, bad losses really stick out, but these ones like tonight and like against Notre Dame, where you just eke out a game against a team that's not highly ranked or very lowly ranked, especially in like the KenPom rankings, like those just become wins. Like no NCAA tournament committee member is looking at it's like, oh, they only beat NC State by 1. They only beat Notre Dame by 1. Like they're just wins, So like winning an ugly game like this, like, yeah, you're sweating it in the last minute to 2 minutes, thinking to yourself like, oh man, how terrible could this be? But you got the win. You won an ugly one. That's a confidence boost. And like kind of to my point about winning a road game against Notre Dame, like same thing tonight. Like this is a morale boost. This is a momentum keeper for this team. They will probably have tomorrow off, and then they'll get back in the gym on Monday. Tonight, fun bus ride back over from Raleigh to Chapel Hill. Again, momentum and morale, I think, are really important for this team. And so, having this win tonight again keeps that around.
Yep. Solid quad two.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ian Jackson's confidence has to be at an all-time high to go into that environment and hit those threes. Like, that's just huge. Like, and it's the smiles down the court, like you said, like having fun. I mean, I think he came in as a pretty cocky, confident, that New York vibe freshman. But now, like, doing that on that, I mean, this is probably the most hostile environment they've been in so far. And to do that and hit clutch threes down the stretch and really answer anything that State was doing is huge. So, I mean, I could just see him continue to go off and have 30-point games in his future, 4 or 5 threes in a game. Like, that's going to be something to expect from him. And then hopefully Jalen Washington or Lubin can really build off that. I just want to see more aggressive rebounding, like box out, like get physical. The rebounding is so concerning. Like NC State getting so many second chance opportunities early bothered me. I mean, that would not fly with Roy Williams. And Hubert Davis was freaking out too, but they're just so physically limited on rebounding and down low. So they just have to be so good from the outside to kind of
We out-rebounded them 40-38.
Yeah.
And NC State had 16 offensive rebounds to our 13. So, it's not like we got no offensive rebounds tonight. But Ross, I'm glad you brought that up. I was talking about rebounding in another group chat, and like the technique that we use is oftentimes either bad or non-existent. Like, we might have 4 or 5 guys standing in the lane, but like no one's finding a body and putting their ass on them and moving them out. Like, rebounding in a general sense is in my opinion, way more about technique and effort than it is about being able to jump a certain height or having a certain length arms. Like, yes, obviously those things can help, but like if you've got inside position and you're moving Zach Edey out of the lane and he gets one over you, that whistle's getting blown. So again, technique and effort are huge, and I think this team does a very poor job, like possession after possession after possession, of just not finding somebody to box out. There were a few times tonight where I saw Elliot Cadeau like hammer Middlebrooks, which I love to see. Little guy boxing out a big guy. But again, that's what you have to do. You got to find somebody to box out. And we just don't do that a lot. Again, we might have the guys in the right, rebounding position close to the basket, but taking that extra step to finding a body to box out prevents, makes a 40-38 rebounding game, a 50 to 30, whatever it is.
It's definitely an effort stat. We're missing Harrison Ingram's ass and Armando, his big ass. Yeah. He was leading the team in rebounding last year. Then Armando Bacot, like, you're missing those two bodies. And anyway, I'm not gonna say it was a exciting, fun win. I mean, it's a good win. I guess all wins are good, but the ACC is not great. And so make the tournament, they're gonna have to win these games. It keeps it fun, it keeps it interesting, and exciting down the stretch. And rather have a win than a loss. All right, guys, we appreciate your time, guys. BreakingT /BHO. That's our reference number there. BreakingT.com /BHO to get all your UNC sweatshirts, Bill Belichick stuff, Elliot Cadeau, RJ Davis t-shirts, and the podcast gets a little kickback. You buy with that link, BreakingT.com /BHO. We appreciate Connor producing this show and Garrett for the stats. We appreciate Spencer and Mike's time. We'll talk to you next time. Appreciate it, guys.